Hello, and welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie, where we interview North Dakota librarians and library staff, state agency leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. I am State Librarian Mary Soucie, and today I am joined by State Auditor Josh Gallion. Josh, thanks so much for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
Josh was elected in 2016 and was reelected in 2020 and 2024. So, Josh, tell us, what is the core mission and priorities of the North Dakota State Auditor's Office?
Well, we have a very important mission. We conduct the post audit of government agencies. That is governments at basically all levels. We're looking at federal programs. We have state agencies, university systems, and the numerous local governments all fall under our jurisdiction to look at previous fiscal periods to ensure compliance with laws, appropriations. We conduct performance audits looking at results, programs. And one of the areas that we also are involved with, a lot of people don't know, is we have a division of mineral royalty. So any federally leased lands out in North Dakota, if there are minerals extracted, we have a team looking at those extractions and those royalty payments, making sure that the proper funds go to the federal government, which that's not really the piece that I am most proud of. Um, because they know the royalty payments going to the federal government, they also know the royalty payments that need to come back to North Dakota and wind up at local levels. So very important. The oil industry, energy industry here in North Dakota is very important to our economy, and making sure that we can communicate those results to the treasurer's office and really down to the local municipalities who need those funds to help support their infrastructure, their operations, that a lot of those budgets are based on now, especially out in Western North Dakota.
Of course. Do we have a lot of federally leased land within the state?
It's quite a bit. Yes, I don't know the exact acreage offhand, but that team is they are very busy. They account for a large portion. So we work with the Department of Interior, Office of Natural Resource Revenue, and we are a very small state. We have a small team, but they account for a significant portion of that federal entity's overall goals for the program nationwide. And so while we are small, as we would call, we're small but mighty, and that team really carries that mantra well. They do a lot of work, and they are out there looking to make sure that these companies are paying the proper royalties on those minerals being extracted.
That's awesome. So looking out for North Dakotans really is what it's
Yes.
about at every level of what your agency does.
Every level, whether it's state, federal, or even local levels, our focus is making sure that these organizations, these entities that taxpayers rely on, they are providing the services, they are doing what they are supposed to be doing with the taxpayers' money.
That's really awesome, and I think a lot and often misunderstood probably.
A lot of what we do can be viewed. I mean, it's almost like an black box in an airplane, right? We all know it's there, but nobody really knows what goes into that. Auditing probably has a little bit of the same mystique about
Mhm.
it. The data analytics, the systems that we're checking, you're talking about internal controls. There's just a lot of that, unless you're in the financial world, you don't deal with on a day-to-day basis, or at least you're not aware that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. But if you are paying attention, internal controls, all of these systems are all around us all the time. What our team's focusing on is, are those controls effective? Are they properly identifying when there are things that happen that shouldn't be? Do we have the reporting and the ability to mitigate that risk built in? And so our team is constantly testing those, looking at all of these different entities, ensuring that, yes, when something goes wrong, can we identify it timely and can we take corrective action?
I love that comparison of the auditor's office to black box on an airplane, and that's something we can all understand.
Yes.
So, yeah, I have one of those little things in my car from my insurance company, and I'm not as fond of that because I think it tells them when I speed. But it does make me not maybe speed as much, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of the black box does the same thing. It helps the pilots do what they're supposed to, and the auditor's office helps government do what they're supposed to.
Yes.
It's just sort of a check and balance.
Yes, and then the other side of that, which I think is probably the most fun for me, is all of the amazing work that the team here is doing. My role then is to really communicate with our stakeholders, our citizens. It's really that education piece because the auditor's office, we don't really have any authority to affect change. we're out there, we're kicking over rocks, we're opening up all the doors and windows to government, and we put it in a report. And then from there, we give it over to those charged with governance. They are the ones that have to actually affect and enforce the change. We cannot. We're just the eyes and ears. We jot it all down and we hand it over. And so really my focus is, again, leading the organization, but then making sure that we've got good channels of communication. We can help people understand what it is that we found so that they know the issues and how to take corrective actions to improve it for the future.
Sure. Is it ever frustrating to not be able to see that change through to make sure it happens? Or you just accept that's the job?
It's part of the job. I wouldn't be human if I didn't have some of those frustrations when you start seeing some issues time and time again. Um, but really, for us to ensure that we are in compliance with standards, we have to be independent. We cannot be part of management decisions. That really is where our authority ends. And so, yes, we do accept that because if we go across that line and we become part of that management decision and we really start driving some of that change, we're no longer independent.
Mhm.
And if we're not independent, then we can't be we can't really be an auditor within the standards. So it's really part of that, having those clear boundaries.
And that's probably part of the mystique, though, as well, because you have to have those boundaries, and people don't always
They
understand that.
they they, they look at the auditor's office, and I correct people all the time, and they want to thank me for holding government accountable. And it's really not our role here in the auditor's office to hold government accountable. We are the transparency arm of the public, the citizens. So we're here shining a light, but it is not us who have the accountability piece. It's really those charged with governance. So it's the agency heads. It's the legislature who sets the policies and appropriations. And so it's our role to go look at all of these, and then we hand that information off to the next person. It is them who have to hold government accountable. And then ultimately it's the citizens. So we really communicate with the taxpayers. I know Emily here has done a great job of creating all of these different channels of communication that we have, whether it's through our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, our newsletters, email distribution lists. We are constantly putting things out there to make sure the citizens understand how their government is spending their money and whether it's being done properly or at times improperly.
And for those who are listening, who is Emily?
Emily is our communications director. She is fantastic. We love having her on the team. She's always like eternally optimistic. It's like having a rainbow being ridden by a unicorn throwing out Skittles.
I love that image.
That's
Oh,
like
that's so
that's like
fun.
working with Emily every day.
Oh, that's so fun. And sometimes maybe a little tiring, but probably
Never.
mostly awesome.
It is always awesome.
That's
We love
great.
having Emily here.
That's a great answer. The State Library's vision is providing pathways to knowledge and opportunities. What was your pathway into public service?
Um, so I've always been interested in public service, but for me, I'd have to go back to when I was much younger, enlisting in the United States Air Force, and I think what really drew me into military service was the desire to give back, to be able to be of service. Today we talk a lot about servant leadership. Uh, you know, 25 years ago, that was kind of an emerging concept, but I look back at that time and the things that I learned in the military about morale, teamwork, um, fulfilling a mission, being able to have the discipline to chart and even go into difficult situations, but do it with a sense of purpose. And, I got out of the military, met my wife. She gave me an ultimatum. It was her or the military. I love the military. There's not a day that goes by. I don't miss it. But she didn't want the military life. And she wanted to have her roots down somewhere in the military. You go where they tell you.
Absolutely.
Um, to me, it's very honorable. I miss serving in uniform. If you see me around the Capitol, I'm always wearing a blue suit. And I would just clarify, it's not the same blue suit. I've got 4 of the exact same blue suits, uh, but it's the closest thing I could find from the suit that they issued me in the United States Air Force. And so to this day, I still look at it more as a uniform.
Okay.
Um, and so really that time really impacted me and my desire to give back. And so when this opportunity presented itself, the previous state auditor approached me. He said, would you be interested in running? And of course, I'd been in some of the political circles for a little bit, and it was always an interest. But I was thinking I'm probably too young to do this yet, and thought long and hard, and thought, yeah, let's try it. And successful. I've been doing it now for over 8 years. Love it every day. It's great to work with amazing people here in the auditor's office in the Capitol. But really that sense of being a part of something bigger than yourself and being able to give back, make a difference.
Right. And why did you put your roots down in North Dakota?
So this is where my wife is from.
Okay.
And of course, at 19 years old, you enlist. You don't know where you're going to wind up. I was born and raised in Washington State. They sent me to Minot Air Force Base.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Why not? Only the best come north. It's on the gate outside the base. But really at 19 years old, when they gave me those orders, I almost cried and thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? Who did I upset? We would joke. I don't know if you want stories. Maybe you want
Sure.
this out later. So when I was in tech school in the military, so you go to boot camp, then you go to tech school. And in tech school, every Tuesday, orders would come out. And you'd want to run down and look at the book. And this is back when it's printed on, that green and white printer paper that's like 2 feet wide. And you'd find names and look over and, and you'd find out where they're going. Some were probably cool, but you track that person down and ask them, have you seen the book yet? No. You're going to Minot. And that was the constant joke. And so the day came for my orders to hit. And they came and did that to me. And I'm like, yeah, funny. I know this game. I've done this game. I went and looked.
You're going to Minot.
Sure enough, right there, said Minot. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. 19 years old, my best days are behind me. Like, I don't know where in the world this is at. But I came up here. You get over kind of the initial shock and you realize how amazing North Dakota is. How common sense here is a whole lot more common than anywhere else. I've wound up meeting my wife, who was born and raised here in Bismarck. And 26 years later, I'm still here. Love it. Couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Couldn't imagine raising a family anywhere else. The safety, the security, the people, absolutely love it. I thrilled to be in North Dakota. Now at 19, I wouldn't have said that, but
Yeah.
now at 46, no place else I'd rather be.
I did not grow up here either. I'm a transplant from the Chicagoland area. And I remember the first time my son came out to visit us and we were watching the news and the story was about the horses at Theodore Roosevelt Park. That was the lead story on the news. And I remember my son saying, horses? What about murders or, crime or robbery? And I was like, no, we got horses. It's a little different today than it was when we came 11 years ago, but still, that's a lot of the lead. There's a lot of safety and I think getting to know your neighbors is still a thing here. I still remember a few years ago there was a snowstorm and I was driving somewhere and I was near the Civic Center and a car was stalled at the light. And without hesitation, the next 3 cars in line jumped out of their car, pushed that car, got it going, and stuff like that still happens regularly, which is why even though we're not natives, we love North Dakota the way a native does.
Just the community.
It's a great
and
word.
how welcoming people are. It's been wonderful. That's why we're here. We're still here. My kids love being here, and yeah, it's nice growing up, not having to worry about some of the things that you have to worry about in larger communities. Growing up in Spokane, Washington, where I was at, my parents would have to have talks with us, as we got old enough to drive and we're out and about. We had certain parts of town that they had to warn us, like, you don't go there after 8 o'clock at night. You just stay out of that area because there are gangs. There are issues that, you just don't want your kids to deal with. That we don't have that in North Dakota. I mean, that is such a blessing
Mhm.
to know that we still have that small town feel, although even, some people say Bismarck's getting bigger, and yes, we are starting to have some of those other issues. For the most part, though, it still has that
Mhm.
small feel, safety, security, the community. Yes, I know all my neighbors.
Right.
It's great to get to interact with them and hang out with them in evenings, weekends, get together for dinners, and
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, you
That
don't,
community is such a great that sums up North Dakota very well.
and I don't think you have that everywhere else.
No, you definitely not. So, Josh, you've talked a little bit about how your agency's work directly impacts the lives of North Dakotans. Is there a recent example of a significant achievement or an initiative that your agency has had that has had a tangible positive effect?
So there's a few audits that come to mind. I mean, every audit, every engagement that we get into, there is that opportunity to have lasting impact, making a positive change. But a few of those, so I think the COVID pandemic is something that everybody can relate to. And one of the things that we looked at kind of at the end of the COVID pandemic, we went back. Our focus was what could we learn to make sure that we could help these agencies implement this if we have another type of a pandemic in the future? And so we really looked at how the COVID vaccines were stored. Were we following manufacturers' recommendations? Do we have the proper storage for the different levels? If they were checked out, were they managed properly? And I learned all kinds of things about this, from cold storage to ultra cold storage, and the requirements of how do you manage these and distribute these statewide. And so that was an audit report that I think, not only were we able to educate the citizens, because if they're not handled properly, the efficacy of these vaccines, it declines.
Sure.
And so if we're really trying to make a difference, have a positive impact, we got to make sure we're following all the protocols properly. And so that was a really cool one.
Is it normal for auditors to look at things beyond just finances like that?
Very normal. I think that's another, black box type situation. Everybody thinks auditors we're just making sure all the beans wind up in the right jar. That couldn't be further from the truth. The bulk of the audit work that we do here for the agencies, those are almost predominantly performance audits. So we're looking at how are they doing, the results, the processes, the procedures. Um, how can we positively impact the outcomes, the results of the use of all of those different resources, whether it's capital, human, budgets. Those all play a part, but we're really looking at how can we improve the performance of the services that they're providing. And that's one way that we were able to use a lot of the skills and the talents that we have here in the office. Another audit that to me is probably a little more near and dear. One of my wife's figure skaters. So my wife's a figure skating coach, and quite a few years ago, one of her students was killed by a drunk driver. And so when the team here wanted to look at breathalyzer testing, and that's all managed by the Attorney General's office. So we went through and we looked at those and we found some improvements that they could make. And so really the outcome there is the equipment that they were using. I think it's at the time it was, I think they were in Toxilizer 8000s. Those have canisters, and if those canisters are expired, it can basically be a technicality in a courtroom where those results could be thrown out, and somebody who might be guilty of DUI could potentially get off because of that technicality. So we really wanted to evaluate that. We worked with the Attorney General's office. They in turn worked with the legislature to get additional funding to upgrade those to these Intoxilizer 9000s. Those will not conduct a test on an expired canister. So having proper equipment along with the training and understanding, when they do give those tests, now we have a lot more confidence in the results of those tests. So that to me is a positive impact.
Super cool.
Um, but our team did that. The one that is probably the most challenging, we've looked at for many years, but we evaluated child abuse.
Oh, ouch. That must have been really hard for your team.
Very difficult. We do still have some of this, and through COVID, we saw a lot of these numbers
Absolutely.
spike. And what we worked on is looking at response times for the different types of categories. Between category A, B, C, all of those had different response periods that require face-to-face contact with those children that have suspected abuse. And when you're looking at category A, these are very severe, and the outcome of that could be potential death. And so we wanted to make sure that we looked at that. Are we doing everything we can as a society to look out for the most vulnerable? And the outcome of that audit, we did identify that those response times were not always being met. And a lot of that that actually led to legislation last session to where there were bills introduced and changes in appropriations. And so our work directly affected the resources that went into supporting these child abuse claims. So, again, the work that the auditor's office does, the staff here, they work behind the scenes. The people doing this, they're not visible. They don't always want to be visible. Um, but the things that they are doing day in and day out have tremendous impact for all North Dakotans, and in some of these cases like this, some of the most vulnerable.
Wow, that's really incredible work that your team is doing that they're probably not getting recognized for the impact that they're making every single day for North Dakotans.
Yes, and they do it with a sense of responsibility, with a sense of pride. But yeah, they're not seeking the glory. They're not
Mhm.
seeking recognition. They like coming in. They like going about doing their work, um, conducting their tests, looking at these different programs, putting in a report, and then handing it off to somebody to carry it from there.
To implement.
Um, I love giving them every opportunity they can to talk about the amazing things they do. And the most common response I get is, "No, you can handle that," which I love it. I love getting a chance to talk about the amazing things that the team here does each and every day.
Mhm. So what do you see as some of the most exciting opportunities or areas of growth for your agency? It sounds I mean, you're already having such huge impacts and like you said, in some of the most vulnerable people. So what's next?
There's a lot on the horizon. I think all of us are aware of AI. Artificial intelligence, I think, is going to have a tremendous impact on the level of work that we do. So, technology is something that we're constantly paying attention to. How can we leverage these tools to aid in our work, to expand our capabilities, to enhance the individual skills of the staff? But how do we do it responsibly? Because the concern that a lot of myself and we use the term affectionately, our nerds. It's our IT team. Um, how do we do this while maintaining confidentiality and protection of the data and the information that we are trusted with? Because once you put information out there into artificial intelligence, it gets absorbed by the networks,
Right.
and so it's a tool right now that we are not really capable of fully utilizing because the data sets and the information that we're dealing with, we can't put it out there because we have to protect our clients'
Mm.
information. And so that's something that we're constantly looking at. We're working with the North Dakota Information Technology Department. I've reached out and tried to have conversations with them and within the governor's office. Are there opportunities for us to set up a standalone um, like server with AI technology, but we can control and contain where it goes? So can we look out but not have that system looking in?
Mhm.
So those are things on the horizon. Some other neat things that we're always looking at improving, some of our data analytics. Communication is always something that I think we do very well, but we also believe in continuous improvement. And so how can we continue to enhance our ability to put information into the hands of the people?
Mhm.
So we're always looking for new avenues there. But for right now, I would say technology, AI, communications, analytics, those are all areas going forward. How can we leverage that to get people more timely information?
Mhm. It's striking me right now how there's some similarities in the auditing world, in the library world, technology, communication, analytics. We've been talking a lot in our shop about analytics and how do we better harness how do we better provide what our users need rather than us deciding what our users need, that kind of a thing. And analytics certainly helps with that as well. So that's neat. What are some of your challenges?
Oh, workforce is always a challenge. I don't know if you face a lot of the workforce challenges. Some of the things that we've really branched out doing over the last 4 or 5 years is we've developed a very robust internship program. We track a lot of the data that comes out of the university system, and some of the things that we are constantly concerned with is a declining number of accounting students graduating here in North Dakota public and private institutions. We used to have, gosh, I think it was north of 230 students a year graduating with accounting degrees. Now that number is closer to 180.
Oh, wow.
And so
Significant.
we have seen a significant decline in the number of students coming out of colleges and into the workforce, which puts pressure on us because these students are highly sought after. Our clients need this skill set. We need this skill set. Our partners in the private sector, we work a lot with private auditing firms around the state. They need workforce. And so that's one of our challenges that we're constantly trying to address. And we have our business manager, Heidi Mormon, works with my deputy state auditor, Brianna Ludwig, very closely. We've done some very innovative things. I think during COVID, there was basically a hiring freeze. We didn't. We continued moving forward at a time when everybody else was pulling back. We developed some new techniques to virtually onboard new employees during that time frame. So how do you incorporate somebody into your organization, your culture, but how do you do it without face to face?
Mhm.
They completely revamped our entire process and how we do that using technology, teams. So I'm very proud of the ideas and what they were able to accomplish, so that we could continue moving forward. Because the work that we do, you have to have workforce, you have to
Absolutely.
have auditors. Um, but yeah, that some of that. Oh gosh, what
Is
else?
that decline nationwide or is that unique to North Dakota?
I haven't looked nationwide, but I do know nationwide there is a decline in college students.
Mhm.
Campuses across the country are
Yes.
seeing fewer and fewer college students enrolling. And so I would assume that some of that's
Mhm.
happening. I don't like to make assumptions, but just looking at the
Right.
total numbers, you would think that fewer and fewer students are going into financial related fields. Some of the other opportunities that we're looking at is recently, a few years ago, we brought on a registered nurse as our medical auditor. You're looking at me with your head tilted. You're thinking like that.
Yeah,
That
like,
that seems weird, right?
no, it seems awesome, to be honest. I That's just medical auditing. That's what I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's probably super interesting."
So when you think of the state of North Dakota, we've got the Department of Health and Human Services. We have the state hospital. We have a veterans home. We have so many areas that are involved with medical related processes, procedures, the dollars. So having a registered nurse, somebody who is medically trained, who now brings skills, knowledge,
Absolutely.
expertise. We've overlaid the auditing techniques. We've trained her on how to do that, but she has the understanding of the medical industry. We incorporate that, and that improves the outcomes. And so we're constantly looking for new opportunities, different skill sets.
Mhm.
Some of the things that we've kicked around, somebody with a mathematics background. We've talked about data analytics. How do you comb through the mountains of information? Somebody with a mathematics background might be interesting. You look at how large the Department of Transportation is, the Department of Environmental Quality. These are engineering and science.
Mhm.
Could there be a spot in the future where we're looking at having somebody with more of an engineering, that
Sure.
STEM type background? Could that help improve our understanding of this material. So we're constantly evaluating those types of opportunities, and seeing how can we bring in these different disciplines, these different skills that enhance the work that we do for the benefit of the citizens of North Dakota.
That's really cool. Is that it sounds to me very forward thinking. Like, are you leading the path in bringing in a medical auditor, looking at a STEM auditor? Is that happening everywhere?
No, it's not. I do talk to a lot of my colleagues from around the nation. Um, we do kind of lead in a lot of that innovative thinking. I attribute a lot of that to the team that we have here. We're always trying to evaluate how do we bring together these different skills, these different disciplines to enhance the outcomes. Um, I feel like I have to mention, Emily. When I first got to the auditor's office, we didn't have a communications team. We brought her in to kind of help structure our audit reports. My goal when we hired Emily was, our audit reports seem to be written by auditors for auditors, and if you didn't understand the terminology and auditing, really, it's almost like a foreign language. If
Yes,
you
it
don't know what
is.
that means, it's hard to get anything out of that report. And so really bringing in a writer who could bring in a different perspective. How do we take this information that's structured in our audit reports, but then write it in a way, if we drop that on any, small town cafe counter, the people picking it up could read it.
Mhm,
They could understand what we were trying to convey.
mhm.
So 6, 7 years ago, that was, innovative for us to really change. And so we've continued to build on these innovations. As I mentioned, the hiring and some of the recruiting, the internship, this medical auditor, we do go to our National State Auditors Association. We share a lot of these innovations with my colleagues. We've had other states send people here to ask us questions. Show me what you're doing. Let me get your policies, your procedures, our culture book. We love sharing, and we love helping others learn from what we've learned. Sometimes we tried this, it didn't work. Don't do that. But again, we really push, the innovation. We have a team here that, to me, I think it takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone, try something new. Don't be afraid to make a mistake.
Mhm.
That's where we're going to learn. We're going to challenge ourselves. And in the end, sometimes we got to take a step back so we can take two steps forward. And that is perfectly okay. Um,
I love rolling things out as trials because it's a defined time, and if it doesn't work, it was just a trial.
yeah, we learned something. Um, but yeah, to me, we can't have an environment where we're afraid to fail. I think we have a sign in our break room. It's learning. It's failing while learning.
I
And to
like
me,
that.
that's so important. Is I want an organization full of independent, free thinking, courageous individuals willing to challenge the status quo, not be afraid to step outside. Let's take another look. Is there a way that maybe taking something and just shifting the perspective a little bit, it can go from a good idea to a great idea? And then know how to lean on the people around you who might have different strengths and different talents to really bring together people and a team to accomplish something greater than any one of us could do alone. So it's been a lot of fun being able to work here alongside so many great people
That's
in the
great.
auditor's office.
Uh, I feel like I kinda know how you're gonna answer this next question, but maybe you'll surprise me. What's the most rewarding thing about being the state auditor of North Dakota?
Getting to know every day, walking across that threshold, we have an opportunity to make a difference. We have tremendous things that we can accomplish, ways that we can move the needle. We can leverage our talents, um, and yeah, not always do people know, but we are helping try to improve government. Whether it's the improvement of the delivery of services, reaching more people, cutting costs, reducing waste, but every day we walk in, Every person in this organization knows that that is before them each and every day, and it's fun to work alongside so many people who know that, who live it, um, and you can see it in their work.
That's cool. I figured you were gonna say something about your team because you just keep talking about this awesome team that you have here in the auditor's office,
We
which
have
is
great people.
really cool. So if people want to learn more about the state auditor's office, how do they go about doing that?
So we have our website, nd.gov/auditor. We've got our YouTube channel. That's where we upload a lot of our education and training material. We're on Facebook. We've got a LinkedIn page. And so there's, many different avenues and things through our website. If you wanted to sign up for our newsletter and our emails, we will send information out to stay in contact with people if they want to share that. Um, Communication is very important to us, and we want to put information into the hands of the people where they are. And so that's something we try to be very deliberate and precise with. We want to make sure that that information is available when they need it. And we've really taken that transparency initiative quite a ways since I first got here. We had walls of filing cabinets of paper. All of that now is online. It's through our website. So if there's information people are looking at for their local governments, state agencies, it's now at your fingertips. And so we want to make sure that we are constantly putting that information um, out there, make it available. But if people want to know more, find one of these different paths, call us. Stop by the 3rd floor of the Capitol. We'd love to have people, visit, and just I get people from time to time, they just have questions, and I love to sit down and visit and try to answer those the best I can.
Great. Any final thoughts you want to share about the auditor's office or state government in general?
I would just emphasize, I mean, again, I love talking about the team here, the culture that we have, the values, you might see 'em, I've got a poster in my office, they're on the walls. I'm just extremely, grateful to have a chance to work with so many amazing people, who all live our values. And, for me to have an organization that builds, on individual success, it celebrates the skills and ability of each and every single person, identifies their strengths, and how can we leverage those strengths, for all of our success. That's what I love about coming here, and I think there's so many great people that work in the Capitol and all of these different agencies. I mean, I think the auditor's office is obviously the best, but
Second best.
I mean, we could probably argue that one a little bit, but I know I might be biased, but no, it's great to see so many great state employees trying to do the best they can.
Yeah, I think we have so many dedicated employees in state government. I'm going to throw you a curveball question.
I love it.
So when I interview librarians, I never say what's your favorite book because how do you choose what, right? It's like saying which is your favorite child, right? So I won't ask you what's your favorite book, but what's a book that you've read that you have really enjoyed?
There's several books by Simon Sinek that I really really like. Could I say which one? Um, I think it's is it the about asking why. To me, it's so important to know the why.
Mhm.
And for us internally, with our culture, our organization, we encourage everybody. You've got to have the courage to stand up, to sometimes speak up, and every single person, what we communicate from myself, the entire leadership team down is every person here deserves to know the why. If you don't know why you're doing something, you have a responsibility to ask. And to me, if we all are rowing in the same direction, we're going to be able to accomplish so much more. So, but I love reading those Simon Sinek books. He's fantastic. His focus on leadership and team, to me, it's really helped.
That's great. Thanks for letting me throw the curveball. Josh, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I feel like I have a much better picture of the state auditor's office than I did before I walked into your office today. We really appreciate the time. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Pathways Through the Prairie.